Welcome to Revive Ministries Livestream. This is a new venture for us, and I'm super excited because someone actually wants to do this with me, and our first guest is actually one that was here before in the podcast, the one and only Morgan Johnson. Yay! Anyway, this is really strange. I know this is a learning curve, but we will make it through it.
We're going to figure it out.
You'll figure it out together. Anyway, Morgan, can you just tell people? I know, a lot of people. Some people, I hope more people will listen to the podcast. So some people might have known you or might have heard from you from the podcast, but some people, most people might not have not. So can you share a little bit about yourself with everyone watching? Just,
Yeah, absolutely. So hi, everyone. I'm Morgan, and Robert, thank you again so much for inviting me to do this with you. I love the fact that I'm a part of this learning curve. So I live in Jacksonville, Florida. That's actually how Robert and I met. And so I'm super passionate about shattering the stigma of addiction, and I love inspiring others to find purpose in their life. I currently work at Beaches Recovery in Jacksonville Beach. I am their director of corporate marketing. So super excited to be here with you. I love your mission, Robert, and I support you like 100%. So I'm the first victim.
Yeah, the first victim.
Yeah.
So this month, I've been trying to do on the podcast kind of like a theme because it's kind of a lot's going on, Morgan, with this whole COVID-19. Everyone's home, everyone's scared, there's a lot of fear. So I kind of might try to make it light, kind of keep it fresh, not, So the theme that I had this month, and I want to keep it, since even though we're doing live streaming, I'll share more about the live stream at the end of this episode. But we're talking about value and how it helps us heal in our recovery and wellness. A lot of us are home. A lot of us are separated. A lot of us can't see each other the way we're used to. Yeah. So I don't know. I know value can mean a lot of different things. I'm not trying to confuse people because sometimes when we think of value, we have a different. But when I think about value, I think about things that have helped me in my recovery, like being grateful for what I have. I could go all day about how much I don't have, but man, I'm here. I'm breathing. I'm talking to Morgan. I have a house over my head. I am okay. And I think what we're talking about, I also do the individual trampolines. So I'll try. so I'm pretty good. But anyway, value. Why should we care about it? Why is it important, you think, in recovery and wellness, Morgan?
So for me, a lot of different things come up when you ask about value. I think about my journey in recovery, and, in the beginning of my journey, I didn't have any value in my life. I didn't have any value for myself. And luckily that has shifted tremendously. Value to me is purpose. Having a purpose in your life really helps guide you. And if I didn't have a purpose in my life, I don't think that I would be driven to heal and really continue to chase recovery and continue to grow as a person. Value for me is also how I feel about myself. And one of the ways that I really find value is through helping others and being a part of missions like this. And it really inspires me to continue to grow.
Yeah, and sometimes the hardest things in their life, a lot of times, is where the most of the growing comes. I remember
Oh, yeah.
watching. There was I don't know, this one person talked about, the moth. It's in the cocoon, but they say if you try to help it, it will not be strong enough to survive afterwards. So there's also this kind of healing process, and we're talking about, value. We talk about healing. One thing I like is this one quote, and it reads this. It's from Rachel Naomi Remen. She says, "The willingness to consider possibility requires the tolerance of uncertainty." A lot of us are in uncertainty right now.
Yes.
I remember also, I don't know if you heard this, the contrast. The good news is only as good as how bad the bad news was. It has to be that contrast, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I feel like if I lost 50 cents, yeah, that's bad, but it's not, the good news is not that. But a lot of times with recovery and finding value, we find a sense of purpose. And I want to talk about purpose. Like you shared a little bit about how value means a lot to you. I feel when I looked at John Lennon, when he was 5 years old, I remember I mentioned this before. He said, the teacher's like, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" He said, "I want to be happy." Us being 38, I don't think he realized what that means, but I think it means a lot, especially today with all that's going on. So what is purpose? Why is purpose important when it comes to recovery? And we're just talking about all these kind of hot button topics because a lot of people are lost. A lot of people are home. A lot of people are scared. So anything you want to share, Morgan?
Yeah. Well, first really want to tell you I love that quote. I can be really challenged by the feeling of uncertainty because I always like to know. I want to know how things are going to be. I want to know the end of the movie. I want to know. I want that certainty in my life. And the one thing that I've found in my own journey in recovery is that I have to be okay with that uncertainty. I mean, I was uncertain how things were going to turn out if I were to get sober. I didn't know what it was going to look like to live a sober life. And I'm so grateful that there was enough pain that really generated that willingness for me to consider the possibility of living a sober life. And really acknowledging the uncertainty in today's world. I mean, absolutely, that's there. There's a lot of fear. I know for me, I've gone through like kind of a cycle with it. Like I'll be in like fear, and then all of a sudden I'm okay, and just kind of like riding that wave,
Yeah.
And that translates back into life in general. I mean, for someone, even if you're not in recovery or feeling like fear and pressure of this current time, you've just got to learn to ride the wave, and having that purpose is what anchors me. Kind of, I mean, this sounds super simple, but having a purpose of getting out of the bed in the morning. I worked from home for about 4 months this year, and, having a purpose to like get up and actually show up for the day, and get fully ready. I think I've talked to so many people that are just not, they're just in pajamas all day, which I love pajamas, but, I do want to say that I do love pajamas, but just really like finding that purpose and what's going to get you out of the bed in the morning. And, I mean, that helps on a normal day. And also with a COVID day, with what we're currently dealing with.
There's another quote, it says, "You cannot protect yourself from sadness without protecting yourself from happiness." It's one thing a lot of times, like even with any relationship, even friendship, whatever, or even life in general. We're talking about the waves of life. Sometimes it rains and it pours. But if you're always, one thing I tell the youth, especially in my church or people I meet, is that don't pretend you don't care. Like when you start going that numbness feel, I know I went through it, like, oh, I don't care, but you really do care. I remember there was one person who was in my podcast. She was a social worker in New York City. And the homeless man asked her, what was the hardest thing being homeless? And he's been homeless for decades. And basically he said, she named everything, like being in the house, food, and all the things you would imagine being the most important thing. And you know what the homeless homeless man said? He said, no, you got it all wrong. The hardest thing was loneliness. That was it. Loneliness was the hardest thing, being homeless in New York City. And I feel that speaks a lot about the human condition and how, you say you want to help people. Serving others became my recovery. Helping others became my healing, because, that's where I started getting my value. That's where I started really healing and finding, at least in my mind, I call it a safe place. A safe place for me. A safe place is a place where you can have pie in your face moments. You can fall down on your face and it's okay, because the people around you see past the mistake. You make mistakes doesn't mean that your value goes down. And that's what I want to tell people, because, this life's hard enough as it is. Sometimes, it's harder for others. But one thing that I find healing is being grateful for what you have and forgiving those who have hurt you, and even forgiving yourself for what you've done wrong. How about you? Any take on that? When I talk about safe place, I know this could go many different ways for a lot of people, but safe place for me, I described it for me. What is a safe place for you, Morgan?
So a safe place for me is really, well, this might sound weird, but sometimes my mind cannot be a safe place. It's the way it starts with how I talk to myself. It starts with how I feel about myself. So if I have that internal safe place where I'm respectful to who I am as a woman, then that directs me into going into environments that are actually safe for me. I love being around my recovery community. I think that it's so important to have that, to have people that have been where I'm at and can show me, how to get through it. I used to feel a lot of shame and guilt whenever I would make mistakes, and kind of going back to that same thing of, it not being a safe place in my head. It was the way that I treated myself after making a mistake. And what I've learned so far in this life is that I have to make mistakes to really, to understand what success truly is. So finding a safe place for me is being around people who understand me, free of judgment, and people that respect my boundaries, but it's taken time for me to really develop those boundaries, because when I came into, recovery, I had absolutely no idea, what type of value to put on myself. And so therefore I didn't know how to pick the right people to have in my life to make it a safe place for me to grow and learn.
One thing I asked myself, and I shared this in my podcast before, is this question I ask myself a lot. What do you think you've lost, or what did you not get that you expected or desired to have? Whatever situation I'm in. You talk about your thoughts being, for me, it's my thoughts too. My thoughts go 180 miles per hour half the time. And I just I need to focus on something, because the thing is, I guess in a way I'm kind of hypersensitive, and not in hypersensitive emotionally, just hypersensitive in every single angle. I kind of overthink and continue to think. And it has sometimes touched upon my sleep and my consistency of sleep. Like I'm sleeping well, but also sleeping through the night, But I also find that, touching upon having that safe place to, understanding that our failures, we learn more from our failures than our successes, really paints a better model for us moving forward. I know, I used to say in my 20s, I'm like, I want to pay back my parents for all they've done for me. And you know what I've learned, Morgan? Never going to happen. Never going to happen. And you know what? It's okay. You have to be okay with it, because the thing is, that's how life is. They have done. They have. They do the best they can. You could argue every which way, and I know at least I am blessed. But at the same time, we also have people in our life, maybe not in our family, that have been vital in our recovery, vital in us piecing back our recovery, and it's just our value. It's just been, it's incredible to receive. Also, receiving a gift is also a testament of your maturity and your value for yourself. When you can't receive a gift because you're just like, no, I want to earn everything. Then you're just very impersonable and very rigid, and you're doing everything what you should do instead of what you want to do. And when that shifts to what you want to do, it's a beautiful thing in recovery, and it's an ongoing thing. It's a whole journey throughout your whole life. So I found that very very, very helpful for me. You talked about boundaries. I want to touch upon boundaries. A lot of people say, "Well, I'm home," but there's boundaries beyond just being home. Now you're home, but people sometimes don't. I think boundaries is very important to establish, especially myself, being a peer for mental health and all that stuff. I need to establish boundaries. How important has boundaries been for you moving forward in your recovery, Morgan?
They've been pretty significant, It started out with the self-awareness piece, really knowing what I was comfortable with and what I wasn't comfortable with. And also carving out time for myself, especially, I know a lot of people are currently isolated, and, having those boundaries within yourself to like carve out that time for mental health, carve out that time for meditation, and don't just sit and watch Netflix all day long. Boundaries have been incredibly important to me, and it's kind of, they stem from that internal gut feeling of what I know is right and what feels wrong.
Yeah.
And I've kind of in the beginning of my recovery, I really set boundaries. I felt really uncomfortable with the word no. Like, I didn't realize that no is a complete sentence, and I still have trouble with that because like people pleasing and wanting people to like me, so I want to say yes to everything, and then I'm left resentful and angry at the end of it because I didn't go with my own boundaries, so I think that the boundaries have been pretty significant for me, and I've had to learn as I go with things,
Shifting to we talk about gratitude, we talk about boundaries. Let's talk about forgiveness. In order to heal, it says in Mila Braun, it says, in order to heal, we must first forgive. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the person we must forgive is ourselves, and that is a tricky one, especially I made mistakes. I'm sure you did, Morgan, in your life. And, it's hard for us to be like, if we're always trying to make even with what we've done, we're going to be constantly chasing. It's just, that's when we start piecing about our value, surrounding ourselves with people who, like you said, understand you, understand when you're struggling, understand that you require a safe place, that you may make mistakes. You may make a mistake, but that doesn't make you less valued. Morgan, doesn't make me less valued if I can't do everything that I want to do, because what we talk about here is healing. And when it comes to healing, it requires everyone. Everyone plays a part. It's not just me and Morgan. It's everyone playing a part. And I have my strengths, but I definitely have my weaknesses. I'm sure the same goes for you, Morgan.
Absolutely.
Recognizing that and all that. So anything you want to share with that?
Yeah, I love this quote too. You're like the best with quotes. I love it. So yeah, in order to heal, we must first forgive. What I find in forgiveness is that when I forgive someone for something that they did, it gives me that freedom. Like, I'm no longer carrying around that anger or that guilt or that shame. I drop it. I drop it and I'm no longer having to carry, that big suitcase
Yeah.
full of resentment.
Yeah.
And in the I struggled with forgiving myself. I think I was about a year and a half into recovery, and I realized I really got like a clear view of exactly how I had treated myself, exactly how I had treated others, and really that true lack of value to who I was, and also not valuing life at all. And
Yeah.
so going through the process of learning to forgive myself was it's an ongoing thing because I continue to make mistakes. It's life, things happen. And I have to forgive myself. But the biggest thing for me, the freedom comes from forgiving others, because I mean, my story. I had a lot of
Yeah.
trauma,
Yeah.
and when I was able to forgive, that's
Mhm.
whenever I was able to release it. And that's what's been so beautiful, because then I can share that story with another woman, and be able to help her walk through those challenging issues. And it becomes the greatest gift and the greatest asset.
Yeah. One thing we mentioned before was fear. I started off with that, but Nelson Mandela says it really nice right here. He says, "I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear." Now, it's beautiful because the thing is, it makes it okay to be afraid. Sometimes we're afraid. You talk about uncertainty, and it's tough when you don't know what's coming around the corner. We like some certainty. Why? There's a lot of things that we try to have some sort of control, and the ones that we can, that's great. It gives us peace of mind, and peace of mind is very valuable today. What I mean? Especially today. So fear, yeah, I feel like it's just like this one example I said. When I'm in crisis, like when I was, Baker acted per se, like when I was in New Jersey, when I was struggling, I kind of equated to like my leg being broken. If someone saw my leg broken, they needed to take me where? To the hospital. Don't
Hospital.
talk
Yeah.
to me. Don't talk to me how the leg looks. How does it feel? They just take me to the hospital, right? But
Yeah.
at the same time, that level of intensity is not sustainable day to day. Your day-to-day life can't be a crisis, and sometimes people kind of get lost in that the day-to-day is, you can't is finding ways to heal. I and we're talking about that today. We're talking about ways to set boundaries, to talking about ways to be grateful for what you have, forgive not, and these things take time. It doesn't just we don't just talk about it and it just happens. It's something that you work on, but you work on it because you have accepted that you want to be happy. You're trying to piece back the value that you feel that you've lost. And I feel like all of this kind of works together with value there somehow, because you need to care. You have to have hope. And that's where it comes down to. I remember Viktor Frankl. It was very interesting. He was a psychiatrist, and that's what his job was. But he was a Jew, and he was in concentration camp. And he noticed the people who've made it were the ones who felt like they had hope, that could
Mhm.
actually feel like there's going to be a brighter day. The
Yeah,
one,
you have to have hope. You have to have purpose.
yeah,
Um, Yeah, and may our choices reflect our hopes, not our fears.
yeah,
Another good one. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I was driven by fear for a very, very long time, and every single day of my life was a crisis.
mm,
Um, Even once I put the substance in the drink away, I still had a pretty good like year and a half of consistent like emotional crisis situations where I just didn't know how to navigate life without that fear driving me. And when I when I get quiet and I get still and I ask God to direct my thinking,
mhm,
um, that's when I can walk through that fear. And every time that I walk through fear, that gives me hope. It gives me
yeah,
faith.
yeah,
Any challenging situation, whenever I walk through that fear and I ask God to guide me,
yeah,
that is truly where I get that hope.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think also with this quote, like, may our choices reflect our hopes, not our fears, is, taking those chances, really don't live by that self-limiting monologue that a lot of us have in our heads. I know
Mhm.
for me, I like to limit myself a lot. My head will
Yeah.
go, oh, you can't do that.
Hmm.
And then that fear builds and builds and builds, and then I miss out on opportunities,
Yeah.
where I could have really been able to help other people. And
Yeah.
yeah, I fear is a big thing. Fear is a big thing right now. I hear it from family. I hear it from friends. Everyone is. Um, I'm not saying it's bad, but there are a lot of people that are very dominated by fear right now, and
Yeah.
um,
It's
I
just
think
not. It's
it's
just
a
not
tough place.
sustainable. It's not sustainable. Like
No,
there's a way to be cautious, But I used to joke with people, and like, I'm a NAMI facilitator, but I'm like, if you watch the news till 4 in the morning, you'll be the most informed sick person I know. That's what I go. I just,
yeah,
but the thing is, it is true because we can't. Ultimately, we realize that we don't have control over everything, but the things that we do, we cherish, and the people that provide that safe place for us to make mistakes, we cherish. And what does that lead us to do? We're grateful, and then we begin to forgive ourselves and forgive others. I'm not saying that's the model, but I'm just saying that has helped me tremendously moving forward. When I used to say, Robert, you can't get sick, I'm like, oh, there, okay, that's good. You shouldn't get sick, okay? How? Like it became just a should. So every time I messed up, just like you, Morgan, what happens? I feel worse when I did, and then I put so much weight on my shoulder because then I have no boundaries because I already messed up so much, and I have this I owe mentality. So
I
I
owe
do
you.
everything.
Yeah.
I do everything's yes for everything, and it never works out well in the long run. This is great, Morgan. I really appreciate you coming on and being the very first live stream guest.
Live stream.
I
Yeah.
know this is very exciting. Any last thoughts? We're honestly for us, this is a learning curve, and I really appreciate you being willing to be the test the test
The test subject. Yeah.
pilot.
No, I really appreciate it. I think it's great. I love the fact that you're not afraid to open up the dialogue around mental health, around addiction. And I think as far as a last thought, it would just be that, if someone is out there struggling, and whether it's just that your thoughts and the fears are just like overwhelming, there are plenty of resources that you can reach out to. Um, and there is no shame in asking for help. I think a lot of people have a lot of shame. I know I was terrified to ask for help.
Mhm.
And Robert, I can give you a phone number if you want for
Mhm.
afterwards, but I'll say it now. If anyone is listening right now and needs help, you can reach out at any time. I'm always available. My number is 904-438-9760. That is 904-438-9760. And I'm always available. I love helping people find resources. That is my passion in life. And if there weren't people available to help me whenever I picked up the phone, then I wouldn't be here right now with you. And so I'm grateful to help anyone, because in turn it helps me.
I really appreciate your dedication and your willingness to serve, to share, and to help. That has helped me, and I see it's helping you. I just want to share with those watching right now that um, we're going to be doing this live stream probably twice a month. The podcast will continue. Right now, the podcast is doing once a week. Right now, same topic, and next month will be a different series. So look out for that. Go to the website reviveministriesfl.com. Again, thank you so much, Morgan, for just being a part of this whole new venture for Revive Ministries. It's exciting. And I was doing events, but even now events don't look very um um appropriate right now. So I shifted over, not even knowing what was happening, to podcasts. Kind of. I was thinking about doing both, but then I laid on to podcasts, especially after what has happened, and now I'm shifting to live streaming. I'm glad that you were our first test pilot on
Yeah.
this.
No, thank you. Thank you. Hopefully we did okay. I will say that I think the best part about this is that you can reach more people, that the reach is much larger on social media. So I think it's amazing what you're doing. So thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of it.
No problem. Again, I just want to let everyone know that we are going to be doing this twice a month. I'll leave you with this, the quote's just underneath. It's what I started with. The willingness to consider possibility requires a tolerance of uncertainty. Thank you for watching. Till next time.